I'm going to talk a little bit about ads, launching your business. I'm going to talk a little bit about different business models and how to get them going. So, you guys all have a business. You have something that people are going to buy. And you guys have heard me talk about funnels all the time, but this is after opt-in or after purchase. And then all of you guys are going to have a website or a landing page or a funnel. It's all the same thing. The difference between a website and a landing page and a funnel, if you guys get confused, a website often has multiple tabs on it. A funnel is a website that doesn't have any tabs on it, that just tries to get you to take one action. And a landing page is for a company that's testing various offers and they run ads to it. So let's say, I'll give you an example. For Book Daddy, we have our main page, and then we also have our About Us page. And then you could have a blog page, and then you have our event page, and then you have the software page, and then you have the little login. You guys know what this is. When you go to a website, there's the header, and if there's a bunch of different things here that you can click on, then it's a website. Does that make sense? But within your website, like your software, for example, if someone's trying to buy your software, if you're white labeling Famous, you might want to have a funnel whereby when they click on the software page at the bottom, the only thing that they can do is they can opt in or buy. And every single thing, every single button just clicks there. Whereas on a website, sometimes the buttons, they go around to different things. And then a landing page is, let's say I have this funnel, but I want to have an offer where it's, let's say, cheaper or a free trial or a different headline, something like that. Then that's called a landing page. And a landing page is usually directly from paid ads, like Meta ads, Google ads. So that's the only difference. So landing page. You guys can see my screen, right? Then a funnel and a website. Okay. So you can have all three, you can have one, it doesn't really matter. But at the end of the day, you're trying to get someone to take an action. Last week, I've talked about copywriting and how to get people to take action. If you don't know where that is, you can go to lunch, just go to learn, and then you can watch all of my videos from previous lessons if you're a little lost, but it doesn't matter. So you have to have a sales page that's making a sale, and then the person's going to take an action. And the thing that you're going to see is you're going to say CP, these are the things that you're going to track. Does anyone know what CPM is? And you're going to have CPL. Does anyone know what these are? So these are essentially the most important things when you're actually thinking about your business. And you have your AOV or cash collected, and then you have your LTV. So everything that you're going to be building in whatever company, if it's an app, if it's a software, if it's a service, if it's a high ticket coaching program, it doesn't really matter. These are the numbers that you're going to pay attention to. So for example, if you wanted to raise money and you're, oh, I need a partner that helps me raise money, this is what they're going to ask for. Because at the end of the day, everything just comes down to this math. So I want you guys to understand this before you launch, because some of you guys are going to be afraid of running ads or being really aggressive because you don't understand how the math works. So this is cost per view, okay? Usually on an ad. Cost per click is cost per website visitor. Actually, someone visits your website. Then cost per lead is essentially you gather their email or their phone number or both. This is cost of acquiring a customer or cost per acquisition, but it's the same thing. This is how much does it cost to actually get someone to buy your product, to pay you money. And then your AOV is the average order value, or cash collected just means, when someone buys, how much money do you make right away? That's not the lifetime value. That just means how much do they pay you right away. Then the lifetime value is how much do they pay you lifetime. So this is essentially everything that you care about in your business. MRR is monthly recurring revenue. So lifetime value, just to get a little bit more advanced. So your average order value is usually, let's say your subscription plus your upsell divided by the percent of uptake. So let's say I have a product let's say my main subscription is a free trial. Then I have a $27 subscription that 50% of the people take. And then I have a $99 1 hour thing that's, let's say, 20% of people take. And then I have a $4.99 super ticket upsell thing that, let's say, 10% of people take. Someone comes in and they buy that. From this, for every, let's say 10 people, what's the average order value? You got to be able to do this math. So 50% of the people are going to pay you $27. So that means for an average person, you're going to make $13 from this. Then 20% of 99, you're going to make another $20. Everyone is just doing the math. You're just multiplying it by the percentage. And then 10% of that is, let's say, $50. And I'm going to answer your MRR question. So now your average order value here, if you send traffic, every person that buys, so your first month, you're going to make $83, let's say. But which one of these is a subscription? Only one of these is a subscription. So your MRR is not $83. The next month, the person pays you 27 because that's the price. So now you got $83 the very first time someone bought the product, but then the next month they're going to pay you 27. So this is the lifetime value is $27 multiplied by the churn. Do you guys know what churn is? Churn is essentially the opposite of how many months they stay with you. So if churn is, let's say, 10%, then they're going to stay with you for 5 or 6 months. So that means that the lifetime value of that client is, let's say, 6 times 30, 180, plus the 3 is 243. So now if you know that right away you're going to make $83, you know that the lifetime value of the client is going to be 243. How much are you willing to spend on advertising to acquire that customer? What's the cost per acquisition or the CAC? How much are you willing to pay in this scenario? How much should you be willing to pay? AOV is the total that you get the first time that they pay you. No, it's not divided because this is just like the average person. So the average person comes in and they get a free trial. 50% of them are going to get the subscription. 20% of them are going to get the 99, and then 10% of them are going to get the 50. So your average order value is the percentage of people that buy additional things. It's very common in apps like your CPD. Has anyone heard of CPD? This is the same as cost per lead, essentially, but it's for apps. So cost per lead is like collecting their email. CPD is getting someone to download your app. But most of the time, you get someone to download the app, and it's usually a free trial to begin. Sometimes it might be your average order value one day might be 200, and the other day it might be 20. But the idea is that over time, you're going to have some averages. So let's say you spend some money and you get someone to sign up for a free trial for your download. Or in Famous example, most of you guys are probably not going to have people pay right away because Famous business model is usage-based. So usage-based business models, you just want to get as many people in as possible. Why do you want to get a lot of people in for a usage-based? You guys know the difference between usage-based and subscription? Let's say I have a $19 regular plan, and then I have a $59 Pro plan, and then I have a $99 enterprise plan. So this is common SaaS software app subscription. Maybe you have a coaching or something like that. This is traditional, but now we have these tokens. So Famous, for example, you guys are going to get charged your cost of goods sold. You guys are going to get charged for every time someone has a message. Okay. So what you do is you say, hey, I'm going to charge you more than what I get charged, which is every business in the world. So it's like, hey, I buy the t-shirt for $5 and I sell it to you for 20. I buy the mug for $10 and I sell it to you for 30. It costs Apple $300 to make the iPhone and they charge you $1,200. So you have cost of goods sold, and then you increase the percentage, and that's your business model. So in a usage-based software like Famous gets charged every single time that you write a message. And so then your white label of Famous or your white label of anything or any usage-based software, you're going to have a cost associated with every single message. Every time someone uses your product, you're going to have to pay for that. Now, it might be barely anything, but then you're going to charge a little bit more. So you can charge 50% more, double more, 2 times more, 3 times more. Or if you want to be a luxury brand like Louis Vuitton or some kind of fancy cologne or something, then you might charge 100 times cost of goods sold because it's a luxury thing and you're essentially selling status. So in that case, Louis Vuitton gets away with selling their products for like 100 times whatever it costs them to make it. So what ends up happening here is that, let's say it costs you $1 per message, then what you do is you charge, let's say, $2 per message. So that every time someone does a message, you're going to make $1. So that's a really good business model. But you can turn this into a subscription like Famous does, where they give you a discount by essentially buying in bulk, and then that kind of automates it. But the benefit of a usage-based system is that your highest level on a regular program caps because oh, I got the best version. I've already paid $200 a month. I already paid $500 a month. I have the best of the best of the best. But you might have some super users in the video game industry. This is very common where you might use Angry Birds or something. You're playing Angry Birds or you're playing whatever tennis game on your phone. And you're not going to pay anything. You're just going to use the free version. But then all of a sudden, or Candy Crush. Does anyone play Candy Crush? You're playing Candy Crush. It's essentially free. But then, the level is too hard. And then in order for you to move on to the next level quickly or get the bonuses or something, you have to pay $5. Candy Crush has people that pay them $50,000 a year. So think about this. So what if Candy Crush, instead of having a usage base, they only had a $99 premium version? So they're thinking, yeah, the people should have to pay and then they get unlimited, whatever. No, because you guys know like a distribution curve, statistics, the distribution curve. You guys know what I'm talking about? A bell curve. You guys remember from math class? So you have a distribution and 50% of people on the right, 50% of the people are on the left. And then you have what's called outliers on the edge. So you might only have 1% of people over here. And let's say 80% of your people pay you nothing. They're all free trial. Okay, so this is all just nothing. Great. But then you have 20% of people that maybe are going to use a little bit. They pay 10, $20 a month. And then you have some people that pay $50 a month. But all of a sudden, these people at the very edge, you might have Joe over here that pays you $5,000 a month. And if you didn't have a usage-based system, okay, then Joe would pay you $99 a month because he got the unlimited free version. So what you're doing is you're allowing people that don't really want to pay anything to use it and then tell their friends. But some of the people are going to be super users and they're going to pay you tons and tons a month. Renee, $15 last week on Harry Potter Match 4 free. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So now what if you get addicted to this game? I remember there was a tennis game that I played. I never played video games, but I started playing this swipey tennis game. And I think in 1 month I might have spent $3,000 in 1 month just on this stupid game because I wanted to get to the highest level and there was a tournament or something and I was just buying the best racket so my player was better or something. And I'm in a position that I can do that, and a lot of people are in a position that they can do that. And if you have a usage-based software or usage-based app, let those people pay you 5, 10, 15, $20,000 because your cost of goods sold essentially end up rounding to zero. So this is the future of software and app pricing. So essentially, I've said this a million times, you guys have to have some kind of free something, okay, to entice people. Then you have to have your core subscription. Then you have to have one-time upsells. You have to have something that's really expensive so that you don't have to necessarily raise money. And then even if only one person does this. But here's the crazy thing is that your really expensive product used to have to be some kind of service or one-on-one thing. Whereas now your really expensive thing can be usage-based super users. What if you get let's say you have your white label of Famous or whatever your software is, you may have literally one client. You guys know that the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. You may have one client that pays you 50% of all your revenue because they're just a super user. And then they are using it for all of their clients and they just love everything that you're doing and they're just going to pay you a lot. Which, by the way, everyone, if you are an employee somewhere, you already do this. You just have one client. You are selling your services to your employer. You only have one client, which is the person that pays you. That's it. You're all entrepreneurs to an extent. You just say, I'm going to do work for this one person and they're going to always pay me. Whereas a business says, I'm going to do work for a lot of people and they all pay me, which requires a little bit of operations and a little bit, you might need to create systems, but nonetheless, it's essentially what you're doing. So the idea here is that you have to get these numbers. And the reason why you have to get these numbers is because these numbers are going to inform whether or not how fast you can scale. So just think about it this way. Let's say you spend $5,000 in advertising. And if you guys are, oh my God, that's a lot. It's okay. I wanted to talk about decision making a little bit. Just what do you want for your business? You say, oh, I want my business to do $1 million a year or whatever. It's okay. Your business is going to, $1 million a year is what, $86,000 a month or something like that. So just imagine waking up and every single day you wake up and you have $3,000 in subscriptions. You wake up, it's 3,000. Then the next day, 3,000. The next day, 3,000. The next day, 3,000. Just every day. That's $1 million a year-ish. So imagine you have this machine that makes you $3,000 a day, whether it's your software, it's your app, or maybe you have an agency or whatever. That's what you're trying to build. $1 million a year is not even that crazy. It's very good business, but it's still a beginner business. And you say, okay, I'm going to do $3,000 a day. So how much would you spend in order to get a machine that paid you $3,000 a day? How much would you invest in that machine? And a lot of you guys get anxious about investing in your own company, whether it's advertising or hiring someone to help you speed up the process. And you get Scott, Scott, you're right, but that's also a very conservative answer, because if you're going to spend $3,000 a day, and I just want to be more nuanced here, let's say you're spending $3,000 a day to get $3,000 a day in subscriptions, the next month you're going to have a lot more because you're going to renew. So maybe the first month you spend $3,000 a day, but the next month you might spend $5,000 a day. And then the next month you might spend $8,000 a day. And the next month you might spend $10,000 a day, because you're always just trying to get bigger. Someone said it earlier, MRR, monthly recurring revenue. And so you essentially want to be as aggressive as humanly possible to build your company larger. And also, if let's say you were starting a restaurant or a cafe or a landscaping company or something, and you say, hey, I want to start a landscaping company. I need a truck. I need 5 lawnmowers. I need 4 weed whackers. I need 2 guys on payroll. Maybe not, maybe just as you to start out. But nonetheless, you say, okay, how much is this going to cost? It's going to cost $20,000, $30,000 to start this company. If you're starting a software company, you got to be able to think in the same way. So just if you were going to start a cafe or a restaurant, and you're okay, I'm going to put $10,000 to $50,000 in this thing, and then I'm going to start it up, and I'm trying to get as many people as I can, because if I do well, I'm going to have this machine, this business that's going to make me $3,000 a day. You got to be a little bit more aggressive, and you can't be afraid. Entrepreneurship is, you got to bet on yourself. So anyways, let's say you're spending $5,000 a day. And so now it's, what's the cost per view? What's the cost per click? What's the cost per opt-in? And in this case, an opt-in is a free trial. And then if we can make the magic math work, where your cost of acquiring a customer is $83 or less, now you're off to the races. Okay. So essentially the game of business is to try to get your average order value to be equal or less than your cost of acquiring a customer. It's very rare if you can do this, but if you can do this, you essentially are getting free subscribers, and you should spend as much money as you possibly can. So if you're not comfortable with this math, or you're not aware of this math, it makes it essentially impossible for you to make decisions on where to spend your marketing or what to tweak. So the reason why I get into all this math, and again, if you guys see the name of this video, it's advanced. So if you have, hey, I can't figure out my Supabase or whatever, go to one of our other classes or talk to Mark Summers, or you could hire my team or whatever, something like that. But yeah, self-liquidating offer. Yeah, exactly. If you can get the lead essentially for free, you're not going to make any money. It's okay, because now you have a customer that will potentially buy more. And if you have a subscription, they're definitely going to buy more, because it's automated that they're going to buy more. So if I put in $1 and I get $1 back, I don't make any money, but I got a free subscriber. I should do that literally as often as I possibly can until I just destroy the market. That's essentially the game. And most companies actually lose money, where they will spend 2 or 3 or 4 times what they get in. So their average order value might be $83, but then they spend like $200 to acquire that customer. They literally lose money. They lose money. Why do they want to lose money? That doesn't make any sense. Because they know, in this case, their lifetime value is 243. So if I spend 200 and I get 243 back, that's a good business. It might take me a little bit of time. Ads do go stale, but advertising doesn't go stale. You just have to change new ads. On the bigger clients, yeah, up to some of the lifetime value customers generated. Scott, you want to be really aggressive? A lot of companies actually will even spend up to the lifetime value of the current customer, because their assumption is that over time they can actually increase the lifetime value, and they're willing to bet on themselves to do that. There's a point where the machine has sufficient results and is okay to stay stable, step back. Helen, as a business owner, you could say, hey, you know what? I just want $40,000 a month. I'm going to hire a CEO, and I want to go live in Barbados and be a professional book reader. You can do whatever you want. There's no rules to this. It just depends on, but the bigger you are, the more room for error you have. So when you find something that works, it's generally suggested to push it as hard as you possibly can to make it really big, because then you can, even if it, let's say there's a disruptive company or you lose someone or something happens with ads or whatever, you have a very long runway where you can still survive for 2, 4 years. Whereas if you're just on the bleeding edge because you were conservative and you started taking too much money right away, then it can be, it's weird, guys. It's funny. People think that being conservative is safe, and it's not. Being conservative is very not safe because it makes you so vulnerable and beholden to what's the market or what's this one customer say or blah 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 and all the excuses that people have. Whereas if you're really aggressive and you push, then you can build something that is actually safe. Jason, maybe in software. What are you referring to exactly? What is different in brick and mortar? The safest companies are big franchises. So, no, more revenue. So let's just think about it. So let's say I own 7 restaurants and something happens and I have to shut 2 of them down. My company still exists because I have 5. This is what private equity does. Having one is very risky. Jason, I'm not saying cash flow is not king. Cash flow is always king, of course. But people think that by being conservative with their current cash flow, they are being safe, when in fact, taking any extra cash flow you have to create more cash flow is the thing that's safe. I'm not saying that cash flow is not king. Obviously, cash flow is king. But what I'm saying is that when you have a little bit of extra, it's like people that say, oh, I have $20,000. Where should I invest it? It's nowhere. You should acquire more skills because you should have more than $20,000 if you have more skills. Your $20,000 is not going to do anything. $50,000 is not going to do anything. $100,000 is not going to really do anything. Not if you're trying to retire and be really comfortable. It doesn't really matter. Unless you're going to put it in the S&P 500 and let it sit for 35 years. Sure, that's an easy game. That's not that difficult. You don't need to ask me how to let money sit in S&P 500 for 35 years. That's not difficult. The point is that from a business owner's perspective, people think, oh, I have a little bit of cash. I want to have cash on hand and I want to take some for myself right away or whatever it may be. When in fact, whatever's working, you should just put it back in it so that you have more cash flow next month. And then you put it back in it, you have more cash flow next month. And you put it back in it, more cash flow next month. And then eventually you reach this critical mass whereby you have such large cash flow that you're actually safe. Because if you lose 40%, it's no big deal because now it's such a big number. Anyways, this is a little bit philosophical idea. Always good to talk with you guys. So anyways, lesson of the day is you got to know your numbers. And the goal is to get your average order value to equal your cost of acquiring a customer. And if you figure that out, guys, just crank it. That's my advice, is crank it. And if you're, oh, but I don't know, how am I going to spend a couple $1,000s for cost of acquiring a customer and it's a little bit risky? Then honestly, if that's your thing, you got to get over it or don't be an entrepreneur because it's like being a poker player. This is a bad analogy, but it's, when you got a good hand, and if you have a good hand and you know you're going to win, you can make most of your money by betting your good hand. When you have a good hand, when you guys figure it out and you figure out your numbers, you got to crank it. So yeah, I have another training on Tuesday and I do one on Saturday. If anyone wants to work with me privately, just schedule a call on my website, launchyourbusiness.ai. Okay, thanks guys. Have a good weekend. Cheers. Happy holidays. Bye-bye.